Hello and welcome back to SHRM Session 4, Part 2. In this session, we will get to know the different types of organizational structures there are. Your learning outcome for this lesson revolves around getting to know how different organizational structures work. By the end of this session, you will be able to differentiate between organizational structures and understand the advantages and disadvantages of different organizational structures. As we have discussed before, the human element is the key component in an organization because it is the most important asset. Structures should be designed to encourage both willing participation of members of an organization and effective organizational performance. As it is important to remember that the human element is vital, you can keep drawing squares and lines, but within these squares and lines, you must have people and they must be deeply involved with the business. If this does not happen, then the squares and lines of a structure mean nothing. Author Lucas points out that the rigid structures are all good, but they can do and inhibit free thinking, which is vital for creativity. It means that a formal structure restricts individual growth and development, but of course, will have its own advantages. Organizational structure involves division of work and grouping of people. There are two ways of grouping people, functionally and divisionally. First, let's look at functional structures. This is where managers group activities and staff according to their profession or function, such as production and finance. This can be efficient as people with common expertise work together, sharing and seeing a career path. However, according to Nauta and Saunders, it may also be a source of conflict if separate functions develop different perceptions of organizational goals. As the business grows and diversifies into a range of different products, markets, and geographic areas, the focus can be lost. And so, it can lead to competition between business units. But we perhaps should think whether competition between business units is a limitation or, in fact, an advantage. When it comes to divisional structures, tasks are grouped in relation to their outputs, such as the product or the needs of different customers. Here, each unit has the authority to design, produce, and deliver products or services. Functions within the division are likely to cooperate because they depend on satisfying the same set of customers. There can be various divisions in an organization. For example, product or customer divisions. They enable staff to focus on a distinct group of customers. Or there can be geographic divisions, such as regions, where tasks are grouped by geography and allows people to focus on identifying and meeting different customer requirements. Organizations adopting divisional structures witness divisional managers being able to monitor and control outlets. Divisional structures are suited to fast change in an unstable environment. Divisional structures lead to client satisfaction because product responsibility and contact points are clear. It involves high coordination across functions. It allows units to adapt to differences in products, regions, and clients. They are best suited for large organizations with several products. It also encourages decentralized decision making. However, there can be weaknesses in divisional structures, such as poor coordination across the product lines and not having in depth competencies and technical specifications. In this graph, we see the difference between a functional structure and a divisional structure. In the functional structure, workers are divided according to their departments: engineering, marketing, or manufacturing. In the divisional structure, they are grouped according to product lines: Product Division 1, Product Division 2, and Product Division 3. Organizations also adopt centralized versus decentralized structures. Centralization is where decision making is taken by the management at the top of the organization. Decentralization requires large number of decisions to be taken in divisions or operating units. Today, we see a rise in decentralization due to several reasons, such as increase in organizational size, multiple geographical locations of business, and the volatility of business overall. Now, let's look at the benefits and limitations of centralization, which of course act vice versa for decentralization. There are several factors to take into view. Centralization requires a lot of debating about issues when it comes to responding to change, so the response will actually be slower. When it comes to the use of expertise, centralization has expertise centralized. This makes it easy to develop new services and promote best practices. However, due to this type of structure will probably not take into account local knowledge. When practicing centralization, companies can achieve economies of scale in purchasing and there will be efficient administration of using common systems. But on the other hand, local suppliers may give better value than corporate suppliers. Centralization sees less risk of local managers breaching legal requirements when it comes to policy implementations due to having tighter control. But of course, with centralized control, if there is no proper control, there might also be risk in this area. Centralization has wide support from staff and the commitment is high. But of course, it's difficult to motivate staff at a centralized level. Centralization provides a consistent image to the public. There is low variation where it comes to service standards. But centralization will also mean that local staff are discouraged from taking responsibility because everyone will want to blame it on the center. Balance structures. Another common differentiator when it comes to organizational structures is whether they are flat or tall. How these work depend on the span of control and the change of command. Span of control. This is the number of subordinates reporting to a supervisor. A narrow span of control is where staff are closely supervised and will typically be in a tall structure. If the staff has more autonomy and responsibility with less direct supervision, span of control is wider and the structure is flatter. The chain of command demands the lines of authority. It shows the links between people, who they report to and who reports to them. It also shows the allocation of formal authority within the organization. When the authority is based on position, not the person, then it is a company with a tall structure. Metric structure. One of the preferred structures in today's volatile organizations is the metric structure. It combines functional and divisional structures where you will have the functions on one axis and the products or projects on the other axis of the metrics. We will see this clearly in the next slide. Functional staff work on one or more projects, moving between them as required. Staff report to two managers, a functional head and a head of the project. This picture clearly shows the dual authority in a metric structure. It's very suitable for organizations with project-based tasks. There are, of course, advantages and disadvantages of metric structures. The pluses are it helps to achieve coordination that is necessary to meet dual demands from customers. This type of structure offers a flexible sharing of human resources across product lines. Metric structures are suited to complex decisions and with organizations facing frequent changes in a very unstable environment. They provide opportunity for both functional and product skill development. These are best suited for medium-sized organizations with multiple projects. The weaknesses of metric structures are that they cause participants to experience dual authority. Having two bosses can be frustrating and confusing. Participants need good interpersonal skills and extensive training for metric structures to work. They are time consuming, involve frequent meetings, and conflict resolution sessions. They will not work unless participants understand them and adopt collegial rather than vertical type relationships. Metric structures also require great effort to maintain power balance.